What's up, guys? I was just thinking this morning in, well, it's been on my mind a lot. It's been on my mind a lot lately. Actually, kind of my whole life. It's one of these it's one of these core spiritual principles that I feel is somewhat mistaken. There is truth in it. There is truth in it, but it's not an absolute thing. And I don't want to get all into the depths of it. I'm gonna keep this one kind of a short, but this idea that people, especially, and the world around you, is a reflection of your internal state. It's very problematic when we think of people in this way, because there is some truth in it. Like the quality of our life and the people around us does have a lot to do with what's going on inside of us. But people actually being a reflection of our energy, of our life, of our thoughts, of our heart state. That's not always, maybe not even often, true, because so much of it depends on whether other people are clear channels. They can't be a clear reflection if they are not a clear channel. And honestly, for the vast majority of humans, at least in Western culture in the United States, very few people have started doing any of the emotional work of adulthood, what I would consider foundational adulthood, where there's some kind of self-assessment, self-awareness, self-examination, cleaning up the things that you don't like that you find there, and becoming the person that you do want to be. I know of almost nobody. I've heard of almost nobody. I'm aware of almost nobody in our culture that goes through any version of this outside of people in recovery, because our life depends on it. And even though that's the case for those of us that have severe addiction histories, still most people don't do it. Most people choose death or just living in a slow, zombie-like extended death state versus going in and doing that work and facing that shit. So even if it's not that bad, most people won't do it. And in order to be a clear reflection of another person, you have to have done that work at a very high level. So it's few and far between that you're going to find people that are actually in a state where they could even be clear reflections of you. So no, the people around you are not a reflection of what's going on inside you much of the time, I would say. But at the same time, the life that you're experiencing and the people that you attract into your life is going to tend to be a vibrational match. So where you are on that spectrum of healing and clarity yourself is going to tend to, over time, and in the big picture, not an absolute case-by-case basis, but over time, it's going to tend to magnetize people that are at the same, that are on the same vibe with you. Sometimes your future self or your higher self can see where you need to go, and this is where I believe like intuitive messages and our intuition, and sometimes just God redirecting our path in ways big and small can come from seeing future timelines that we can't see with our human mind, our ego mind. And it's compounded by the problem in our society of we tend to live exclusively in the thinking, literal, linguistic, rational mind, which is 5% at most of our brain and nervous system, of our mind, and of the capacities that we have available to us at all times. Barring like traumatic brain injuries, like severe trauma, etc. But we're not taught how to access any of that stuff. We're taught that it's not even real in this culture. The body doesn't matter, music doesn't matter, intuition doesn't matter, etc. The heart, the soul, all of this stuff. But it does matter. These things matter, and these things are very, very real. But this idea of the external being a reflection of our internal state, it's also the other problem with it is that it's the concept underlying it is that we are, time is linear, it's one directional. We are the source point of everything that we're perceiving and experiencing, and that's going outwards and then being reflected back to us. But in reality, everything that we perceive and our belief system and the underlying architecture of our personality is a result of our first 18 to 25-ish years, especially, but ongoing throughout our life. So we are reflecting, we're perceiving and digesting reflecting back outwards, sometimes clearly, sometimes with lots of gunk attached to it once it goes through our systems. We're reflecting the experiences and the belief systems that we went through completely for the first 15 to 18 years of our life. We start to have a certain level of self-awareness in our teenage years, but that doesn't really develop. That phase doesn't finish until we're 25, and it's considered that we're like full-grown adults when we're 18 in this culture. So it's more like a loop. It's like a figure eight. It's not just like one point going outwards and being reflected back to us like radar. That seems like a misnomer, misconception, a faulty kind of a faulty metaphor, and it's extremely prevalent in spiritual communities. In just, I think, in the natural way that we kind of perceive things as human beings, there's a big element of that in there. But especially, it's kind of a foundational concept in a lot of spiritual traditions and communities, and I think it's largely mistaken, because we're reflecting things that happened to us in our childhood, and if we don't, if really messed up things happen to us and we don't ever go in and heal any of that stuff, we're going to keep reflecting out things that aren't actually true and that aren't necessary. They're going to be generating more suffering and more pain in our life and in the lives of people around us. So it's a loop, dude. It's not one directional, and both of these things are too. And and the third problem with this kind of belief system and operating system is that it just doesn't take into account the reality of the world that we live in, like intergenerational stuff, our DNA, nature versus nurture conversation, the reality of trauma, which many people don't even know about, cultural stuff, like discrimination, like all of these things play into play into the equation. There's many variables. It's not just like whatever you think. This obsession with the mind in our Western culture, especially for men. But it's really Western culture. It's really just Western culture. It's like whatever we think, perceive, believe with this tiny little sliver, which most people identify exclusively with. That's reality. And then other people are reflecting that back to us. And so if we, that puts the onus on us. Well, we need to change what we think. We need to change what we think and believe and stuff like that. And we're not even, like most people haven't even gone through the process of becoming aware of what that is or where it fits into the larger scheme of things, and it's impossible. And so then it puts the onus on the person that's having these experiences. Oftentimes, people that that are part of a group that's discriminated against, or people that have experienced abuse unknowingly, people that have trauma wired into their nervous system unknowingly, oftentimes, the results of all that stuff is put back onto the person, dude. And it's just like, it's absurd. And it's one of the biggest mistakes, I think, in especially in like spiritual and faux spiritual communities in the West, man. And yet there is truth in it. There's a lot of truth in it. The things that we experience and go through, on some level, it is choice. Once we become adult and we have our own volition, we have to make the choices for our lives and the results of those choices. So that's stuff we have to learn the hard way sometimes. One of the but in this whole conversation, I guess it's got a little longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but this conversation, as we're kind of healing and going along, it's important that we be patient and give ourselves time and grace and stuff. This thing is so grungy looking. It's got a weird, the cover is weird. I've been carrying it around all over the place for a long time. I tried to wash it, and it took a layer off of the freaking cover, and now it just like collects freaking gunk. Really weird. It's like a gummy underneath layer because I sprayed it with a cleaner one time. It's just a weird material. But this book, Transurfing, it talks about how the mirror reflection of the world, of our life, of the space that we're in, it does reflect the overall content of our thoughts and our belief system. but there's a delay factor. It's not immediate. You can't just have a new thought and then, I mean, like if you're at Jesus level, if you're at like the Buddha and the masters and the sages, there's plenty of stories about people manifesting, so-called miracles instantaneously. And I believe I believe that stuff is real. I believe it's a possibility, and I've seen some miracles too. So, but I think that any of us can get to that level. Even Jesus said that. Jesus said so. He's like, "Why are you guys so amazed? You can do everything that I'm doing and so much more. You can do so much more than me." He didn't put himself on a pedestal, dude. He didn't start this whole religion about himself. he always was. He is so real, dude. He is the realist. I love that kid. Anyways, dude, this book, Transurfing, it talks about the delay factor. So in our thoughts and beliefs and our actions and reactions in the world is not going to instantaneously change when we start changing our belief system or when we start healing trauma and damage that we have. There's a delay factor. And at the beginning of this book is a really cool, the way he describes it is like standing in front of a mirror and you smile, but the image in the mirror doesn't show a smiling person right away. There's a delay, kind of like a 1111. Kind of like when a Polaroid camera. If you guys remember this, actually they started making them again. I seen them at Target a while ago. I was gonna get one for my daughter. I will. Maybe I'll just get one for myself. But when you do the Polaroid, the picture comes out and it develops itself. It's got the stuff all built into it. Apparently, you gotta flip it like a Polaroid picture. Get some air on it, help it. But it takes a minute for the image to really fully form. So when you're changing your belief system, when you're changing your ideas, when you're doing new things in the world, it's most of the time, unless you're at the highest levels, it's not just going to shift overnight. And if you're at the highest levels, you don't need to shift because you already did it. You already did it. That's why you're at the highest levels. But the way it talks about it in this book is really cool because it's like, you got to be patient. And what I'm finding in my life, the mirror, the reflection in your daily life and in the people around you and stuff like that, it's not just overnight that it shifts. And so be patient, keep going. That's why we have to have faith and hope. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have faith and hope and believe. We have to believe in these things because we're not always going to see the results immediately. So sometimes we got to run on faith for a little bit. What was I saying? Oh, because in the work that I've done in my life, and the work that I'm doing right now, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing right now is things that I started writing about in my like my vision books, vision boards, journals, stuff like that. 2019 is when I started doing some of this stuff like with seriousness, and it took 2 to 3 years. Some of the stuff happened that same year when I got serious about it. Some of the stuff happened within weeks or months, but a lot of it was these deeper belief systems that I didn't even know about so much of this stuff back then, But what I'm seeing right now is some of the stuff, depending on how deep the belief system is and how much wounding is attached to it. Often it seems like it's going to determine, first of all, if we ever even look at the shit, if we ever even deal with it, because it is painful. It's painful to dredge shit back up, man. Even if what it's causing is painful, sometimes opening that wound is even more painful. There's some big infections in there. Shit's gnarly, dude. Shit's gnarly when you get something infected and there's all kinds of inflammation in there. But yeah, it seems like with the deep stuff, it can be a couple years of delay for some of this shit, for the results of the healing and the new belief system and the new thoughts that you have to show up legibly in your life. I'm working on a book right now with a handful of them on different topics, and with the difference between PTSD and CPTSD and the healing process between these. Generally, if there's a stable foundation and a stable baseline for PTSD, and it's just a single incident or like a short period of time that created PTSD in somebody, healing can happen fairly rapidly once it's identified. Especially if you have skilled help, potentially like certain medications and procedures and stuff that can be done now. PTSD can be healed pretty quick, but complex PTSD, you're looking at 3 to 7 years. If the situations that caused the CPTSD are completely resolved, and you're safe, and you're not in places where your actual like life is in danger, you're still under like criminal assault, abuse, like etc. The things that cause CPTSD, you gotta be clear of those situations to really start the healing process. And then you're looking at 3 to 7 years, oftentimes, in kind of a basic scenario. When you're healing a fucking lifetime of being in CPTSD, who knows? God can heal anything, dude. God, spirit. These fucking characters. I can't wait to be clear on my situation. Can't fucking wait, dude. It took me a little bit to see my part in it, but the pain was bad enough that I did what I do, man. I did what I do. I look, and if I can't find it, I dig deeper. But again, this is why so much of this stuff has come up, because dealing with narcissism and these people that do fake mirroring, they pretend, they assault and destroy and take pleasure out of harming other people. At the end of the day, that's what the cluster B disorders are. They like to hurt others. They like to cause harm. It gives them pleasure, or it relieves their pain momentarily enough that they keep doing it. It's kind of an addiction, I guess. It's like a spiritual addiction to Satan juice, but it functions somewhat similarly, apparently. The supply, narcissistic supply, and all these fucking concepts that, I've had to study for the last fucking 10 years for my survival. This is why it's complicated, because when you're dealing with narcissists, it's not because there's something wrong with you. You don't need to placate the narcissist. You don't need to fucking give them more space and be more understanding of their feelings and all of this shit. They're not reflecting you. They're reflecting simulacrums inside of themselves of pain that goes back to who knows, fucking God only knows what all and where all. But they try to get everyone around them to where their pain and their reflections and their projections. This brings me back around full circle to what I was starting this whole thing, because I hear this come up all the time. They're like, well, other people are just a reflection of you. If you don't like it, then you need to change yourself, which is complete fucking bullshit in most possibly cases. Most people, the way they interact with others, they're projecting their own stuff, whether that's, just toxic, unconscious, aware, loving, whatever the case may be. If they haven't gone through any kind of process of self-examination and intentional and deliberate, like bringing themselves into a place of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, they're going to be mostly projecting and mostly unconscious, and whatever they put on you is going to have absolutely nothing to do with you in most cases, other than like a little fucking fragment, because something about you reminds them of something probably in their subconscious mind, something from who knows where in their fucking life and childhood. That's the reality of interacting with most people. Not that it's a reflection of you. It's a projection of themselves on whatever level. But in the bigger picture, the people that you attract around you on a regular basis are going to be a reflection of your emotional status and the development work that you've done inside of yourself. Because when you've done a lot of internal work, you're not going to have any kind of tolerance for that sort of bullshit. You're only going to be around people who have also done a shit ton of work on themselves and are capable of reflecting clearly, are capable of having a fucking relationship. People who are capable of having a fucking conversation, an adult conversation. It's not common in this culture. It's not common at all. You can find people of adult age that can have adult conversations. It's just not. feel free to verify if you haven't already. But this whole thing of reflections and projections and all this stuff, it's super tricky. You know, I've been navigating Narcland for a decade in the most acute form, but my whole life in more subtle ways, more of a like unconscious way versus malicious and evil. And it's just there's a lot of stuff in there that's not true. But if you are on the healing path and you're, you know, the stuff popping up in your life isn't what you want it to be yet, I'm gonna read the big book. He's not the big book of this. It's like it's a fucking tomb. Tome, not B. This one is awesome. It was like it's one of the things I read like in morning meditation a lot of times. It's got these really cool little chapters. Cool little chapters and interpretations. Good reminders. But if your life isn't reflecting to where you want it to be yet and you're doing a lot of healing work, just remember there can be a delay in the mirror of the world. Because on some level, dude, it's true. On some level, it's true. 2121. Like the life that we have is you know, it's not as simplistic and simple as we would like, as our brain, as our mental thinking brain would like it to be. Our rational mind would like it to be super simple, and it's much more complex and deeply rooted in so many ways, so many places that we can't even see a lot of the time. Just like with, you know, what we see on the land, the surface of the land, even something simple like trees and forests and stuff like that, we think that we're seeing something of incredible complexity. If you start to learn about ecology and shit like that, it's amazingly complex, but we're not even seeing the bulk of it. Most of the action, most of what happens is inside of the plants themselves and the animals that we're not seeing that are moving around through everything, and then the freaking soil web, soil ecology. It's like, it'll blow your fucking mind when you start looking into it. All the breakdown and decay and the movement of nutrients and water and the way that plants can communicate across miles. Now they're finding hundreds of miles, maybe thousands of miles, maybe instantaneously anywhere around the earth because of water and how conductive it is, and all, like quantum mechanics, all these things, dude. It's like that they're just fucking discovering, dude. And we think, our brains, our rational minds tend to think, oh, we know everything now. We have science and all, you know, we're in the modern era and fucking we know everything. That's a dangerous place to be, man. Thinking that we have all the answers. God, there's something, it's a quote from somebody else, but it is in the AA Big Book about judgment before being closed off to an idea before you examine the idea. It's like judgment before contemplation is it's one of the biggest points of failure for humans. It's one of the most dangerous places to be, is thinking that we know everything, because then we're closed off to new information, and we know 0.00, almost infinity, 0.0001% of anything there is to know. That's why I was bringing up trees and forests and stuff like that, just something basic like plants and ecology and stuff like that. We think we're seeing the whole thing. When we look at it, we're seeing almost nothing. We're aware of almost nothing. Even if we study this shit in depth and get fucking degrees in this stuff, bachelor's and master's and potentially PhDs. PhDs are kind of like, you know, top of the knowledge chain that we have right now. But even in that, it's like you can specialize in one tiny little sliver of human knowledge at best. If you spend all your decades devoted to that, you might learn a thing or two. But it's like we're so limited, and it's so much wiser to just accept that fact, and accept the fact that our rational minds themselves are very limited in their ability to perceive and condense and process information. Even the smartest of human beings know almost impossibly little about the big picture. So just it's good to stay humble. It's good to stay humble and stay open to new information. I guess that's kind of the point, or one of the points. But soil ecology is really cool too, if you want to blow your fucking mind. Start learning about ecosystems, man. Start learning about anything, and you realize, oh, it's like, oh my God, not only do I not know anything, but if I spend 24, 44, the entire rest of my life trying to learn about this thing, I still won't know anything when I'm done. Don't let that stop you, dude. Studying shit is cool. Anyways, learning shit is cool. It's one of the coolest things that we can do as humans, and using this frontal lobe part of our brains is one of the coolest and funnest and most amazing things that humans have. But it's just a sliver, dude. And God, spirit, universe, whatever your favorite, not pronouns. What's the word for an other? Whatever you want to call God, dude. It's fucking amazing. When we haven't even explored very much of this earth at all, looking at the oceans and the bottom of the ocean, and to say nothing of like any other fucking planet. Cool, we're like shooting off satellites and stuff like that. We know like little slivers of things here and there, but humans are amazing. Humans are silly. The arrogant ones, and people that think they know everything, dude, I have a hard time. I got a really hard time with them. I let them be. I just fucking let them be and try not to interact with them as much as possible. But yeah. Anyways, the projection versus reflection. That's what I was saying. One of the themes. I'm gonna get back to writing out descriptions on the videos. It's been, I've been pretty deep in a process this year, this decade, since January 2026. But yeah, dude, if you're healing up and changing your life and doing new things. Sorry, I'm not maintaining awareness of how close this camera is to my face either. This book, Transurfing, and the intro to it, it's got a really good piece, and it's like, there's a delay in the mirror image. There's a delay in the results you're getting back into your life based on the choices that you're making and the beliefs that you have, and the heart-mind coherence. He talks about that a lot in his work, and it's one of the reasons it's vibing with me so hard these past few years. That's really where it's at, dude. It's not just the thinking and knowing. It's not just the thinking and understanding, but it's the knowing that's in our heart and our gut and our physical intelligence and spirit and intuition, all this other stuff, dude. It's unifying all these different pieces. We can't just think our way into a new universe. There's a lot that we can do with our mind. They're very, very powerful. There's a lot that we can do with words. They're very powerful, but also incredibly limited. But if you're frustrated with the delay between the work that you're doing and the results that you're getting in your life, just try to be patient with yourself and with the universe, and understand that there is a delay in this physical universe. That things aren't, generally speaking, they're not just going to show up like right away in your fucking life like that. But I highly recommend this for anybody that's on a path of conscious creation, dude. Happens to have 78, which is my birth year as well. I'm gonna turn 48. Oh, tomorrow's my birthday. Turn 48, dude. It's cool. 48 reduces to 12, reduces to 3. It's good numbers. 47 was cool too. It goes reduces to 11. But I hope you guys are doing great. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. I don't want to go off on a whole new tangent, but learning about why the days of the week are named what they are, especially if you're a spiritual person, if you practice a religious tradition. Sábado in Spanish, Saturday is sábado, which comes from Sabbath, the root of Sabbath. It was considered the day of rest, but in our modern times, it's Saturday, which is Saturn, which is father time, and then Sunday is Domingo in Spanish, which is like the day of the Lord. So it's kind of interesting how the weekends became what they are. But you find different religious traditions. I'm looking into Jewish tradition a little bit more, and their Sabbath is from Friday evening like through Saturday is Sabbath. And then there's like Seventh-day Adventists, and they do their services on Saturday as well. But then most like Christian churches do Sunday gatherings. But in our linguistic tradition, sun was the sun, the moon, Sunday, moon day. Zeus day was Tuesday. Wednesday, miércoles and viernes and Venus, and it's so interesting looking at all these things. And we consider it's like, oh, it's just Christianity. It's from, Christianity. It's not, dude. It's all the, the pagan traditions, the Romans and the Greeks, and it's really interesting shit when you start looking just underneath the surface of things, man. All kinds of shit hidden. All kinds of shit hidden down in there. The overlords, the Matrix, bots, the fucking masters don't really want people looking at most of this stuff, even though it's all just sitting right there. It's all just fucking sitting right there for us. Anyway, happy Sunday. I love you guys.